there's that. And like I said, we are going to be reviewing the movie Air and the genesis of this shoe, the Air Jordan 1, which the colors, they've come out with a few different colors. This is not the original colors for those of you that are new or don't know what the Air Jordan 1 looks like, but this is it. One of the sweetest shoe designs of all time. And Air, which is the story of how Nike landed Michael Jordan, and I would say it worked out for both sides. I don't know if you think that, Grant, but I would say it worked out all right for him.
Well, I'll say this is the reason why it worked out. Over his tenure at Nike, Phil Knight has donated $2 billion to charity. To charity. I think it worked out just fine.
And well, it worked out his rookie year where they made $162 million, in shoe sales off that, which I don't think it ever said what percentage of the cut he got of every shoe sold, but I mean, I don't know what they were sold for back then, but he $162 million and say he got like, I don't know, even 10% or 1% of each shoe.
I was thinking maybe
$162 million. It adds up pretty quick.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe like they'd get 10%. He would get 10 or between 5 and 10% of that cut.
It could have been. Yeah, I don't know. And I tried to go and look in. I've read Phil Knight's book Shoe Dog, and I went back to go and see if it got to the point with Michael Jordan, but it stopped at 1980. So that the Michael Jordan contract and signing him did not go in, but didn't make it into the book. But I don't think people realize that Nike at that time they were basically known as a running company.
It was what Prefontaine.
And that was how it got it started. Yep, right? With Steve Prefontaine. And it was slowly starting to get in. They couldn't get any big names for Nike, and they were basically Nike basketball was basically on the chopping block of things that were going to get cut. And if they didn't hit a home run, or I guess in this sense a grand slam, who knows? Nike they're not the most famously known brand in the world or most recognizable brand in the world, but it also talked about how Nike got to where it was by taking risks, by being aggressive and going after it. And when Sonny went and visited about, hey, I think we should offer all $250,000 of our budget, basketball budget, to Michael Jordan, said it was crazy. And that was when Sonny kind of talked to me. He's like, you guys didn't make this by being conservative or trying to make the board happy, which is kind of where they were at, where it was just trying to please the shareholders, please the board. And they got away from that aggressive risk-taking style. And then Phil, like it was said, goes on a run, decided, yeah, all right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
And Michael at the time, which I don't know if you knew that, but the Just Do It was before a guy was getting executed, and his last words were, just do it.
I had no idea. That was so fascinating to learn that possibly the three most famous words in sports apparel was because some guy was going to get executed by a firing squad. and incredible. Who would have thought? And so, Dylan, you mentioned, Phil went on that run. Is that the best case of runner's high like anyone's ever had in their life? Where they're just like, you know what? I have an idea after I went for this magical run. Let's give it all to Michael Jordan. Like, that has to be the best case of runner's high ever.
Yeah. Well, and it didn't even end there either, because the shoe that they had designed, it didn't fit with the NBA's dress code for on-court code, where 50% of the shoe had to be white. And Rob Strasser says, what if we just pay the fine? Pay his fine, which is $5,000 a game, which ended up being 5,000 times 82. I can't do math in my head. Big number. But when you sell $162 million in sales in the first year, it's pocket change.
And then, after a while, I'm hoping the NBA kind of loosened up their purse strings and said, this is a ridiculous fine. Let's get rid of this. But that's another thing I learned, dude. I didn't know that the NBA was so strict that their shoe had to be 50%, color white. And then that Nike pretty much risked it for the biscuit. And they said, no, that's all right, Michael. You go out, you play basketball, you do your thing, and we'll pay the fine.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And then when Michael goes, or Sonny goes to meet his mom and just decides, I'm not going to talk to anybody. I'm just going to go. I'm just going to do it. And he goes and he meets with the mom, Dolores. And she, very smart woman. And when he was talking with his basketball coach, George, who was the Iowa assistant, his assistant at
USA Basketball for the Olympics?
For USA Basketball. And when he goes, I think this was when he meets with his mom. No. And I had this written in my notes, and now I'm just pulling it out because that's how prepared we are. But one of my favorite quotes in one of the opening scenes is, "Our basketball division is fucking terrible." And,
yes.
He talked about what the family was like, what the parents were like, and to Sonny's credit, he talked about how he decided he was going to go after his mom, try to build that relationship, that trust with her, because that was going to be the way to win Michael over, because he knew that the most important voice in Michael's life were his parents.
Mm-hmm.
And to her credit, she gave Sonny the time to go visit, because Michael had zero desire. It said that he would, even if Nike went and bought him that Mercedes that he wanted, he still wouldn't sign with Nike.
Yep.
And when Sonny met with his mom, she asked what the pitches with Converse was going to be, what the pitch with Adidas was going to be, and Adidas at the time was the premier shoe, but they were going through some hardships because the owner of Adidas, Adi Dassler, he died. So there was, I don't know if it was run by his brothers or kids or there was a bunch of different voices, and he said that if you ask who's calling the shots, you're going to get 4 different answers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how that played out.
Now, was Adidas the top dog at the time, or was it Converse? Because Converse had Bird and
it was Adidas.
And Magic Johnson. Okay.
It was Adidas. Well, so are you saying? I think, like, as a whole, I think Converse was, but I think Michael liked Adidas because he also liked the tracksuits.
Oh, yes.
That Adidas had at the time as well, and he just liked the shoes, I guess, like, because they talked about that in the film, how Michael would wear Adidas in practice. He wouldn't wear the Converse. He'd wear Converse for games, but after that, he would always wear Adidas.
Yep.
And goes over his agent David Falk's head, which was a very funny exchange.
That I was gonna say, that dude, when Sonny talked to his agent when he got back to headquarters, that may have been the best part of the movie. How he just brought the agent down. The agent was just pissed at Sonny that he went behind his back. He set up this meeting, and then just right there at the end of the conversation, he looks at his agent and he goes, "All right, I'll see you Monday," and hangs up on him.
Which, that was another really good part of that I enjoyed with the movie, is it did have those comical breaks where there were times where it was tense, but they were find ways to kind of break the tension, and had some times where they burst out laughing, like when the guy that was designing the shoe was out on a skateboard, and they're like, Maybe he's going through a midlife crisis. Like, hey, I saw you out with on a skateboard. What's going on there? I'm going through a midlife crisis.
I'm going through a midlife crisis. Dude, you're 50 years old and you're riding a skateboard in our parking lot? Yeah, I'm going through a midlife crisis.
But and then they get to the meeting with Nike, and Rob Strasser tries to make a joke. It did not land. It was terrible. It would probably sound like if I were to ever try to do stand-up comedy, it just would not work. And then they try to do this movie or film breakdown, and it wasn't going well. And then, Grant, you talked about runner's high, and Sonny was not a runner.
No, he was just a fat middle-aged white guy.
And he just it was I think that was the runner's high for Sonny, or it was similar to that scene in Old School where Will Ferrell has to talk about carbon emissions or whatever it was in the
debate.
Yes.
And yes.
He looks. I blacked out. I don't know what happened. and that's exactly what it was the pitch of when I see your son, he's going to be the greatest ever. He has that ability, and it goes back all the way to when he was in college, when he was begging for that shot at 18 seconds to go, and he was ready for the moment because he knew he was getting the ball.
Yeah, and that's when Sonny, watching that replay, saw it. Just the smallest details from watching that championship game in New Orleans against Georgetown. And when they first showed that movie, I was like, why does he keep watching this? Like, what? We know he makes the shot, but when Sonny broke it down, you're just like, okay, yeah, he sees something in this guy. And if it wasn't for those small little details, again, the sports apparel world as we know it is flipped upside down.
And, he offered probably one of the greatest lines. A shoe is just a shoe until someone steps into it.
Yep.
And that was what got that's what Dolores told Sonny when he was kind of backtracking off of, well, Michael is going to sign with you, but he wants a percentage of each shoe sold. And he was, that's not how this works.
We're going to set a different standard and break the industry. Yada, yada, yada. But then,
which is, one of the themes of the movie, which is how Nike got to be where it was, is they didn't get to be where they were. Phil coming in 7 minutes late, talking about how they are a multi-billion-dollar company, how he's got meetings, but wanted to make sure he's there. And that's how you set an industry, is by taking that risk and betting on a guy that's never played a game.
Yeah.
And he goes on $162 million in their first year, and now it's over $4 billion in revenue each year of passive income. It said it was like 400 passive income.
400, yep.
And and Sonny goes up kind of defeated to Phil. Phil's excited, is like, he's got good news.
Yep.
And then it's like they want a percentage of each shoe, and Phil kind of sits there and thinks, and then says, "You know what? Fuck it. Let's do it.
Let's do it." Yep.
And then the rest is history.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
So, Dylan, question for you.
Yep.
I know you have the Air Jordan 1s. If there's what other of all the line of Jordan shoes out there, which is the one that you wish you could have? Which is the one you wish you had now? Like your most desirable. You already have the Air Jordan 1s. Which would be the one where you're like, I need that?
And I want about 2 or 3 other Air Jordan 1s. I want the originals that were shown in the film. I want a Michigan colored one. And I want those Carolina blue ones just because they look so sick. If we're going off of, yeah,
they're the best. To me, they're the best shoe out there.
It's
so sexy.
I like the Jordan 11s those
Mhm.
aren't a bad shoe too. Those are the ones that are white with just the just whatever color on the bottom.
Yep. Yep.
Or the Jordan 4s. I like the Jordan 4s as well. I think, and I'm not super. I've slowly kind of started getting more into the sneakerhead game, but
Mhm.
very 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 hesitant because they are not cheap.
Yeah, that's correct.
And at some point, yeah, there's a few that I really want to get, but right
Yeah.
now I'm good with my NDSU Jordan 1s. And if they had and if for the right price, I would probably my next one would be the Michigan ones. Oh, and Ethan is on, but overall, tremendous movie. If you haven't seen it yet, go see it.